Good morning and welcome to today's reading. Today we're going to be doing a bit of a deep dive into the chakra system as the theme for our spread. The intention for today's spread is to tune into our chakras and see what actions we can take to help realign our system. Also, sometimes it's really good to check into the different energetic systems or even the physiological systems of our body and see maybe what's going on and what's there to learn about our current situations. Because sometimes you know, the blocks that we have can be cleared up just by taking a bit of a minute to look and see where we need to realign, what we might need to be paying attention to. Because most of the time, when something comes up in our lives, it is a indication that there's something that we need to tend to. And whether it be an illness, whether it be just an energetic block, whether it be things like frustration, anger, whatever it is, there's a reason why it's there. And so we're going to use the chakras today to help see what might be out of alignment, where we can take some actions, and how we can start to, really look at clearing out some of the blocks, some of the obstacles or resistance towards the goals that we're working on at this time. So as I shuffle the cards, I am shuffling in the question, what guidance can our chakras provide to help create alignment and improve our current level of wellness? I feel this year is all about wellness and really getting aligned with what brings us a sense of wellness and balance because we're the only ones that can define that for ourselves. When we feel off or if something's struggle, like if we're struggling in a way that we feel that we're pushing really hard to get something to happen, there's a reason for that. And so sometimes we need to look at our mindset, sometimes we need to look at our energetics, and sometimes we just need to look at the actions that we're doing and how that's cultivating a sense of wellness. So again, what guidance can our chakras provide to help create alignment and improve our current level of wellness? Right, there we go. So now we will pick our cards. And as we're dealing with the chakras, there will be 7 cards in this spread. And if you were doing this for yourself, you could lay the cards out in any way that you want. All right, so we have our 7 cards, and the first card is going to be dealing with the root chakra. And so the question that we have is, what will help us ground into a firm sense of security as the root chakra really deals with, like all of the basic elements that we need of life, right? Like, so food, shelter, finances to be able to make sure that we can have everything that we need to basically survive. And wellness only can be built on a foundation where you feel that you're out of survival, where you're out of crisis mode. And I think that this first card is going to really kind of help us to see what can we really ground into at this time that's going to help us move us out of that sense of survival and into a sense of security. And here we have the Knight of Wands. And the Knight of Wands is a very dynamic, very charismatic figure. And this is someone who, when they get a plan in their head, nothing's going to stop them. And that's what we need to do right now, right? If we really want to ground into a sense of security, we have to ground into this idea that we have the energy, we have the understanding, we have the fortitude to be able to clear away the blocks, right? Like our fire knight here is somebody that is very capable of cutting through anything that's there, right? Like they basically can have the ability to purify a situation so that what's left, right? Like sometimes I kind of think of them as the phoenix, right? Like they come through and they'll burn everything. But yet what comes out of that burning is something that's fresh, it's healthy, it's new, it's vibrant. And so, right now, if we're looking on how to ground into a sense of security, it's interesting sometimes too, right? Because when you're thinking about grounding, it's a very earth-based idea, like really kind of being stable and safe. But at the same time, when you think about a lot of things that to become something that's very, usable or fully functionable. Sometimes it has to go through a heating process in order for it to be as solid as it needs to be, right? Like there's a curing kind of period that needs to occur. And sometimes we don't really notice that the curing is happening because it can be a low grade heat that allows it to happen. It can be a heat process over a period of time. But the Knight of Wands is coming in and saying, we need to really get this done. We really need to clear. And so when we want to really ground ourselves in this sense of security of the root chakra, which I will also say the root chakra is connected to the color red, and having the Knight very red, right? Very fiery, very connected to that color, that energy, right? So one of the things that we want to do is we want to look and see, as we're looking to create this sense of security, how are we surrounding ourselves with that image of red, that image of vitality, the blood of who we are, right? Like, and so we want to be able to be firing ourselves up. And the best way to do that is to make sure that we're clearing out anything that is stopping us from feeling safe. And people talk about like don't burn your bridges down, but sometimes you need to burn some bridges in order to keep yourself safe and to disconnect you from systems and from people and from situations that are maybe triggering this sense of crisis, maybe triggering this sense of lack of security, right? And so the Knight of Wands comes in and says, okay, we're going to really do a big purging here. We're going to do a really big cleansing. And it might set off that kind of crisis idea, but as you start to go through the process and you start to purge away all the things that are distracting you and taking you away from seeing maybe what's really in front of you, that sense of grounding, that sense of security is going to come in tenfold as the process starts to begin. Next, we move up to the sacral, and the sacral asks, what creative practices can we have that will increase our emotional wellness? So if we clear away and we purify all the things that the Knight of Swords is going to, or sorry, the Knight of Wands is going to identify for us and help us to clear and cleanse everything away, then we want to look at when we feel safe, then we can start to look at our emotional wellness and where are we on this scale of emotional wellness. And so the sacral is going to come in and help us to kind of see what's a practice that we can have that can help cultivate that wellness. And here we have the Eight of Coins. And the Eight of Coins is about saying, you know what? It's time to get out of your shell. It's time to move out into the world. And the Eight of Coins obviously is all about moving and dealing with the three-dimensional world, the tactile world, anything that you can touch, anything that you can interact with that has a density to it is what we're being asked to kind of tune into and to really, really connect with. And so when we look at how can we increase our emotional wellness in a creative practice, it's about getting out there and finding a creative practice that we feel comfortable enough with. And so, for instance, using the tarot readings that I do, right? Like I'm doing something that makes me feel good when I do these readings because it's a gift that I have cultivated. It's a talent that I have worked with. And a lot of times I spent hiding in the closet, so to speak. But, coming out and sharing these, I share these because it's something that makes me feel good. And if someone that watches these videos gets a sense of wellness from it, then it increases why I do this. And so this is what it's asking. It's saying, get out there and do something that you feel good at, that you know that you can do. And do it only for the fact that you get to do something that makes you feel good without worrying about what you're going to get in return, right? Sometimes the Eight of Coins is seen as you've studied enough, now go and put your skills to practice so that you can make a living out of it. But in this case, when we're looking at a creative practice and building our wellness, it's about what is it that you know that you're really good at that you can get out of your house, out of your space, and go and do it. And you might do it with other people. You might still be doing it by yourself, but it's just something that you can do well that you need to get out and start doing it more often. And because we're looking at like a wellness practice, right? Like you can look at this also as, so I talked about like the tarot readings, but you could do it if you're somebody that say likes to do hiking or cross country skiing or anything like that, and you're really good at it, this is what this is saying, is to increase your sense of wellness and especially your emotional wellness and trying to think of the word. If it comes to me, I will mention it. But like when we're looking at like clearing our emotions and being able to understand how we're feeling and to clear out a lot of that energy, especially if you're feeling kind of triggered by the purging of the Knight of Wands, getting out and getting out into nature and getting out into spaces that are green, that are going to help you to ground even more and to be calm and allow you to process the emotions. And that's why I said, like, it doesn't matter if it's something that you do with yourself or with other people. It's just something to help you process things through your body in a physical and creative way. Next, next we will be moving up to the solar plexus. And the solar plexus asks, excuse me, what may be impacting our ability to trust in our decision making? And so the solar plexus is kind of where like our sense of self-value and self-worth kind of sits there, right? It's to me, I always look at it as it's the kind of the ego sits there and how we see ourselves. So now we're looking at, and here we have the Nine of Swords. And when we're looking at what's impacting our ability to trust in our decision making, what's impacting us right now is these ideas that we're living in a world that we can't be safe, that we can't be trusting our decisions because we don't know from one day to the next what's going to happen. And it could be something small from where I live right now. We've had snow, I think, almost every day this month. And so it makes it really hard to make a decision to say, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to go to the store and do this. And then you get up and there's 2 to 3 inches of snow out there. The roads are terrible and it's hard, right? And so then um, it becomes very hard to trust in the decisions that we're making because there's something that we feel that's outside of us that is impacting it. And there's these parts of ourselves that are kind of a little bit illogical because what happens is when something happens, we start to question us, right? Like, so, okay, so it's snowing and all my plans start to fall apart. And then I'm like, well, I guess I can't make any plans because I just don't know what's going to happen and I don't know what I'm doing. And it just starts to progress. And so the Nine of Swords comes in and says, this worry, this fear that there's some big bad out there that's coming to get us. That's really what's kind of questioning us. And a lot of times that big bad is past experiences that we've had that we made a decision and someone made us feel as if it was a bad decision or as if we were wrong or if something else was happening. And because of that, we start to question ourselves, we start to doubt ourselves. And so we need to be able to understand that a lot of things that are going on out in the world really don't apply to us individually. And so we can start by making small decisions and just really trusting in those decisions. One of the things that really helps with decision making is understanding that we have value, right? Like, so our opinions matter, our voices matter. And so when we're making decisions, it's important for us to listen to what it is that we want, because a lot of times when we start to doubt our decision making ability, it's because we've made a decision based on what someone else wants or what we perceive other people have as far as expectations for ourselves and what is acceptable. And so it's very important for us to really start to say, the best way that I can make a decision is to make a decision based on me. And that's why I find it interesting that it's the Nine of Swords, because the Eight of Swords is all about fears that are internalized fears that are keeping us from moving forward. Whereas the Nine of Swords, I sometimes see it as externalized fears, where there's a fear of something out there. It's to me, it's kind of like the horror movie card, right? Where it's like, don't go into the basement, right? Everybody told you don't to go into the basement. And so there is maybe a perceived threat out there, and whether it be that if I make this decision, someone's going to abandon me and leave me alone. But it's important to understand that the perception is the fear, not the decision. And so learning how to kind of trust ourselves and to make decisions that are for ourselves is really going to be a key right now. So now we're going to move up to the heart. And the heart asks, how can we be more compassionate in our relationships? Sometimes, especially if you're tired, it can be really hard to be emotionally regulated. That's what I was trying to think of from back here. And so now we want to be, because sometimes when you're tired and you're fatigued, and if you're fearful of what's going on and you don't feel that you have enough value, relationships can start to be one-sided. It becomes very hard to be compassionate when you feel that you're in a powerless relationship. Interestingly enough, here is our second night of the reading, and so there's a lot of things that are going on right now that are telling us in our system that there's a lot of actions that we need to take, because the knights are the action pieces, right? And so we were first told right from the beginning that we need to take action in clearing out the whole system, and almost like burning everything down to the foundation so that we can start new and fresh. And now when we're looking at how we can be more compassionate, the best way for us to kind of be more compassionate in our relationships is to put more time physically into the relationships and being more present and being more grounded in the relationships, because there's a lot of times where you might be in having a conversation with somebody, and even though there's somebody that you really care for, if you're distracted by whatever the fears are of the solar plexus or the worries of the solar plexus, you might be sitting and not really being present. And so you can be more compassionate by being attentive to the wants and the needs of others. The Knight of Coins also is dealing with that three-dimensional physicality of things. So taking actions in the real world, right? Getting rest, getting sleep, making sure that you are well cared for, well tended, well supplied, so that you have the capacity to be able to be there and be for other people what they need when they need you to be present. Next, we move to the throat chakra, which is where a lot of my throat issues are coming from today. And the throat chakra asks, what will help open up authentic self-expression? And a lot of times when we're looking at when we get out of aligned, and we're not feeling safe, we're not feeling seen, we're not feeling heard, we're not feeling valued, we will start to really hide who we are in how we express ourselves. And here we have the Hermit. So here's our first major arcana card of the spread, and it's interesting that the our hermit is in the throat, and the throat is all about communication. So it's interesting to have the hermit coming up and saying you need to take a step back, you need to spend some time alone in reflection, in processing. And I think that in some ways there's a piece of that we overlook with the throat, because with the throat chakra about communication and getting our messages out there and being authentic. Well, if you're not taking the time to really sit back and say, what is the message that I want to share, right? If you're sharing from this place of fear, and you're sharing from, uh, an overgrown and untended to foundation, and you're feeling unsafe and you're feeling unseen and you're feeling unworthy, then what you're saying is going to reflect that. And so it's time, to take a step back and to get quiet. Sometimes with the hermit, I find what's really interesting is when you get quiet and you go into that hermit energy, you start to hear things that are there that you might have missed before. And I always also find that when we look at communication, communication is speaking and listening, right? And we talk a lot about sharing our truth and expressing our truth and being authentic in how we express ourselves. There's very little dialogue around being quiet and listening, right? We have to be taking the filters off and being able to listen to what other people are saying, to listen to the world around us, to listen to the messages, so that, we can catch that subtext, we can catch that hidden dialogue and everything that's going on. Because if all we're doing is talking and we're just trying to get things out, we don't have the time to sit and listen and to be quiet and to be still, right? There's messages that we can be listening to in everything. And the hermit is also one who is all about listening to what the lessons are saying. And so to take some time in inner contemplation means take time and listen to your inner dialogue, right? You're, if you're like me, your brain is talking to you all the time. It is never quiet inside my head. And my brain is always telling me something. And whether my brain is telling me stories of all the places that I screwed up, all the ways I went wrong, or whether my brain is telling me all the things that are going to happen that I could screw up and that I could get wrong. It's important to be able to sit and listen to those voices so that you can catch when they're talking and how they're talking so that you can start to weed them out, right? Like going back to this purification that we're doing, if we can start to, kind of purify the voices in our head, we'll start to see everything in a completely different light. Also, the Hermit being the major arcana card, this is, as of right now, this is our key area to be focusing on over the next little while is our throat and really making sure that we're taking time to sit back and think about what it is that we want to say. Next, we move up to the third eye, and the third eye is asking what blocks to our intuition need clearing. And isn't it interesting that blocks to the intuition brings the Queen of Cups up, who to me is next to the High Priestess, is the second embodiment of intuition and intuitive powers here. The other thing with the Queen of Cups is she's very much about community and about emotional regulation and emotional balance, but in a nurturing kind of way, right? Each of the queens has something to tend to. Each of the queens has an area that is their specialty that they tend to in the privacy of their spaces, right? The queens usually when you think of royalty, right? Like you see the king who is the outer face and does whatever, and then the queen is more of the relationship building, the peace bringer and everything. And so the Queen of Cups is coming in at the place of our third eye where our intuition sits, where our imagination sits. And she's saying, like what really will help to unlock your intuition and to clear the blocks is to get into some creative practices and maybe connect with some communities that were going to help you to see the world from a different place. The Queen of Cups is all about flowing into this uh non-conformity space, right? And so looking at all the things that we've been told by the chakras up to this point, there is a sense of freedom that is being bound, right? Like the chakra systems right now, they're begging for expression. They're begging for this ability to purify and to clear the space and to let go of the fears and let go of the doubts and just to be able to express ourselves in a way that is true to ourselves from that reflection piece that we have been requested to do. And so the Queen of Cups is now coming in and saying, you know what, once you've burned everything down, once you've purified everything, she comes in with that healing waters and to be able to say, now it's really time to reconnect with yourself. Now it's really time to see where you're being called forward. And your intuition is going to bring you clarity when you allow it to play, when you allow your imagination out. And as I said, when you connect with people that are going to be able to say, hey, yeah, I get that. I really want to do that too. And just to really be in communion with that non-verbal. And I find that that becomes a very interesting companion to the Hermit, right? Because the Queen of Cups comes out and she's like, we want to be creative, we want to be abstract, we want to be non-linear, we want to be all the things that language and the logical side of the brain tries to shut down. And so the request here is to really just allow yourself to follow those crazy hunches. It always reminds me of in the Harry Potter movies and in the books, I guess, when he takes that potion, that luck potion, and he ends up like, oh, I have to go and talk to this person, but you know what? I think I'm going to go this way. And that's what our intuition does, right? It says, don't try to analyze the knocks that are coming. Don't try to analyze when something's guiding you in a certain way. Just follow it and see where it leads to and have fun because when you allow that fluidity to come in, you will be very surprised where the current will drag you. And the final stop on this journey today is the crown chakra. And so the crown chakra is asking, how can we best cultivate a practice of joy? And coming out of this idea of, the Queen of Cups and playfulness and everything, it's going to be interesting to see what joy is going to come. And here we end with the Ace of Cups. And so the invitation for joy is to get out there and play, is to get out there and be creative, to get out there and find new people that are going to spark joy in you and to find new practices, right? And for it all to come from that sense of wellness, that sense of inner satisfaction, right? The Ace of Cups is an invitation to come out and dance, to come out and dance in a crazy way, right? Like it's not come and follow the steps that I'm going to set before you. It's like going, you know what? We're going on a journey. There's no shape to this journey. There's no path to this journey. There's just a current that's going to pull you one way or the other. And you have to trust and you have to have faith and you have to believe that all of these things are here to guide you in a more wonderful, joyful way. And so to really just be ready to just dive deep into this adventure that's coming. So when we look at the cards overall, we have one fire card. So we have one wands, we have one swords. So these two are nicely balanced. And then again, we also have two coins and we have two cups, which balance these out nicely as well. And then we have one major arcana card, meaning where our chakra systems, where our energetic system is out of alignment. Only the throat is one that the universe is coming and tapping us on our shoulder and saying, hey, you really need to be paying attention to how you're communicating, what you're communicating, how you're listening, what's going on. And the best way for you to do that is to take a step back and to listen to what's going on in your head, but also while you're taking a step back to listen to the conversations that are going around you. A nice practice for this one, because of where it's landing in the spread, is if you have the opportunity to go kind of sit in a food court and just sit and listen to the conversations that go on around you and what the people are saying and how they're saying it and as you're listening to the kind of like watch the behaviors that they have. So the hermit, looking at how it's a reflective practice within the communication theme, he's saying, really take some time to really look at communication, to look at how it's changing, how it's staying the same, and how you can get your message out. And then with the rest, we're just basically being told there's small steps that we can take. There's things that we need to do. It's not with the cards that have come up, there's nothing screaming at me that's saying, "Oh my goodness, you're so out of alignment over here. You really, really need to tend to this." The only thing that I would say that would kind of come close is this Nine of Swords, where it's saying, you're allowing the external situations, all the external fears to dictate who you are, right? I like to kind of, in this situation of where it's falling, it reminds me of, lots of different times in my life where I didn't know what to do when I went outside with other people. I didn't know how to socialize. I didn't know how to be part of a community because everything that I liked was weird and it was strange and it was different, right? I wasn't going to go to a group of people that were, interested in literature and start talking to them about tarot, or I wasn't going to go and connect with people who were into, like heavy metal music and talk to them about country music, right? Like I just always seem to be the odd one out. And so it creates this sense of fear of going out, of doing things, of being who I am when I go out. And that's kind of where I'm getting this feeling from with this, especially because it is the solar plexus, which is all about our identity, right? And so there's something that we feel that is blocking us from being who we are outside because there's a fear that there's something out there that's going to that's going to do damage to us. And again, I'll say, like the world that we live in right now is crazy and chaotic, and I understand why a lot of people are feeling this way because there's a lot of spaces out there that don't feel safe anymore, that feel threatening. And so it's important to be able to really, and that's one of the reasons why the hermit might be coming up is to say, it's really important to take time and really get clarity on who you want to be and how you can be authentic and to find the places that are safe, right? And so maybe that's where this Ace of Cups is going to come in, is especially the invitation coming through the crown chakra is the invitation that's coming to all of us to say, you know what, the universe is bringing in this new creative flow, this new connection flow, and we just have to be willing to trust and to follow the path that we're being led down. So I hope you enjoyed this reading. If you did, please like the video. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe as we do a new tarot reading every week. Also, today is the day of the new moon, and so there will also be a second video coming up later, which is going to be a new moon reading. If you get a chance, check that out. I will put the link to the new moon reading in this video's description when it's ready. In the meantime, I wish everybody a wonderful day, and I will see you again. Take care.